Welcome back to the podcast. Every week, we are focusing on one of the key foundations of building a life you love. And this week, I want to talk about the foundation of spiritual connection and dig into why it matters so much, especially when life starts feeling heavy and hard and uncertain. This has been a conversation that we've been leaning into all week in the community, and it came forward through a couple of meaningful conversations around what it looks like for me personally to share my faith confidently, talk about spiritual connection while also creating a space that feels welcome and inclusive to everyone. I am a leader, a coach, an author, and a speaker, and I'm also a Christian. My faith in God shapes how I live, how I lead, how I make sense of life, and how I return to peace. And at the same time, I know that people encounter my work from all different places. Some folks feel very deeply rooted in their faith, like I do. Some are reconnecting to a faith. Some are still exploring what spiritual connection can mean in their own life. But really, what I care about inside of the community and the spaces that I create is that they are spaces for honest growth and honest reflection and a deeper connection somehow. And one thing that I deeply believe is this: the moments when life feels tough are the moments when spiritual connection can matter the most and can be a real source of strength and peace and grounding, however you find that spiritual connection. I think a lot about, well, I know this in my own life, and when I am in the community and coaching clients one on one, it is very obvious that life is regularly asking a lot of us, even when things are going well. But there are responsibilities and pressure and uncertainty, and yes, disappointment and relationship challenges and grief and seasons where emotionally we're going to feel really stretched in ways that other people may not even know or see. And it's in these moments that whatever you anchor to really matters. That is why spiritual connection is a foundation inside Build a Life You Love community. It's a foundation of my life, and it is something I always return to. For me, sometimes it can look like prayer when I just can't get myself into a peaceful place, or when I'm really needing to interrupt fear, I will go to my Bible, go to scripture. Um, Oftentimes, it's just sitting quietly and asking God for clarity and direction on something that I'm uncertain or worrying about, or just simply giving myself time to be still and breathe and come back to center. I get to remember, you get to remember that you are not carrying life alone. And for me, that is what faith does for me. It anchors me. And I think that many people need that reminder right now, because when life gets hard, it is really easy to become disconnected without even realizing it. And we go into survival mode, or we get stuck in our head, or we hold on tighter, trying to control outcomes, moving faster, carrying more. And before long, we're functioning, but we're not functioning in a very grounded way, right? So that is when any kind of spiritual connection becomes so important as a foundation to building a life you love. One of the things that I have learned is that faith becomes incredibly real when life is not easy. And it's easy to talk about trust when things feel calm, but it's very different when you're disappointed, you're overwhelmed, you are waiting, things are unclear, you're trying to be strong and your heart feels tired and heavy. Um, and you know you need support. These are the moments when connection with God or any higher power becomes a lifeline. So for me, faith isn't about pretending that things are fine when they're not, like, oh, God's just going to take care of everything, everything's fine. Like, it's acknowledging when things are not fine, knowing where I can return to, where I can anchor into when that's the case. And it's about bringing God the thing, whether it's worry or fear or grief or uncertainty, bringing God all of the questions, all of the exhaustion, and trusting that His presence isn't reserved for the easy seasons. His presence is especially powerful, and that is when He wants us to come to Him. It's in those very hard seasons. And I think sometimes we underestimate just how practical spiritual connection can be during those times. It can be the thing that helps you slow your breathing before you say something you don't mean, or the thing that steadies you when your emotions want to run the show and take over. And it can be the thing that reminds you that your worth is never going to change just because of the circumstances that you're in. It's the thing that helps you surrender what you cannot fix or control today. I also want to speak directly into something that has come up in these conversations inside my community when we talk about spiritual connection, because I think it really matters. Part of what we've been talking about is what it looks like for me to be honest and confident about my faith, while, as I said before, also maintaining this inclusive space. And in these conversations with some of my clients and members of the community, my answer back was simple. I do firmly believe and in embracing that both are possible. I will never hide my faith to make room for others, and I don't need to pressure anyone about what is true for them, right? My faith in God is central to my life. It shapes how I understand peace and surrender and hope and healing and my identity. It shapes the way I lead in my life, in my business, in my family. It shapes the way I serve, and I'm really proud of that. And I also believe that people are allowed to be in different places on their journey. So some of you who are listening or who are part of my community may share a similar faith. Some of you might still be on your journey and are figuring out what you believe, or you believe something different. Spirit, universe, higher power. Either way, what I want you to know and hear is that in my world and inside of this community, all of it's fine. You are welcome here. This is a journey. This is why we're here talking about how important this foundation can be in supporting and building a life that you love. I'm sharing what is true for me and what I have observed and seen in others in terms of the power of spiritual connection, while still extending welcome and respect and openness to anyone who is listening and coming from a different place. And it really matters to me to say that, because I never want the conversation around spiritual connection to feel uncomfortable. I want it to feel real, and I want it to feel available. I want it to feel like something that you can actually embrace to support your life. So, as always, I want to talk about what this looks like in real life when things feel hard. Like, what can we lean into this week? It could be just starting your morning with a minute or two of stillness before all of the other noise begins, and just giving yourself the opportunity to say out loud, what is it that I need today? It could mean catching yourself in the middle of the stress and the chaos and choosing to be still for a moment and say a silent prayer before you immediately react. It could mean reading a devotion, reading a verse in the Bible, letting it ground you before your mind runs off in a million directions for the day. It could look like taking a walk and appreciating the beauty around you. One of my community members yesterday during the devotional hour was talking about that is how she connects with God, by taking a walk and observing God's creation all around her, the trees, the wind, the birds, the animals, and just breathing deeply and reminding yourself that it's in these small moments that connection and peace can be available to you. And here's something really important. It can look like admitting that things feel really heavy and simply reaching out for support instead of isolating yourself and thinking that you have to go it alone, right? It's like saying to God or anyone else, I don't know what to do with this, but I'm going to trust you to meet me here with it, right? That is spiritual connection, not having all the answers, but returning to an anchor of peace and truth and trust, returning to the awareness that there is really something deeper, bigger, holding you than just the current circumstances you find yourself in. And maybe that's really the simplest question for this week or this moment, this season in your life is, what can I anchor to right now? Because if our peace is attached to outcomes, control, approval, or all of the uncertainties of life, life is always going to feel really shaky. But I truly believe that when you begin rooting more deeply in God, spiritual connection, a higher power, in truth, in surrender, in presence, something starts to steady inside of you. Something starts to steady inside of you even before the situation changes or is resolved. So, what I really want to leave you with today is when life feels hard. Spiritual connection is not something to put on the back burner. It may be the very, very thing that can hold you steady, right? Faith as an anchor, coming back to peace, the knowing that you don't have to do life alone. So whether you're deeply rooted in that kind of faith right now, or you're simply feeling the pull toward what it could look like to have a deeper connection, I hope that just opening up this conversation encourages you to pause and ask yourself, where do I need God's presence and a connection, a spiritual connection most in my life right now? What would it look like to reconnect to that instead of just pushing through and going it alone? That is the question I really want you to sit with right now if this is a place of uncertainty for you. And as always, if you're curious about more and these conversations around this resonate with you and you want to be a part of those conversations, reflect more on it, there are ways that you can stay connected to this work and to me. And I would love for you to be part of the community where we continue to explore all of the pillars of life, all of the pillars and foundations that it takes to truly build a life you love from the inside out. As always, I thank you so much for tuning in, for listening, and I'm really glad that we got to have this conversation. I will talk to you next week.